you've got to have a vision that you're working towards, a singular aim, a singular vision, or a singular goal that you're working towards. You have to create that first. This is inspiration, which works much, much better than motivation. Motivation is like a roller coaster ride, where you're like, okay, I'm all pumped up now. This some kind of external thing got you motivated. Whether it was listening to a motivational speaker, or maybe reading something motivational, or maybe something I said was motivating to you. But the problem with motivation is it is like a roller coaster ride, and it doesn't last very long. So when you're just trying to run and do everything on motivation, you're going to go up and down a lot, whereas if you do the work that we're doing in this program, which is so fundamental to anybody's success, whether they are an artist or not, what you get in touch with is who you really are, who you really want to be at your core, and you create a future vision of yourself. And what you're saying about first there just has to be awareness there, right? Awareness of the gap from where you are and where you want to be, who you are now, who you want to become. And really, who you want to become is who you already truly are. You're just kind of stuck in some sludge over here. You're stuck in some sludge, some old ways, some old thinking, thought patterns, old ways of being. So those things have to get cleaned up, healed, transformed. You could even look, it's like alchemy, really. You're transforming all those negative things into positive. Here's where I'm going. So all this stuff has to get cleaned up in order to get there. So yes, the key is definitely first you're gonna clean that sludge up. That's like muddy quicksand. That's every time you're trying to reach up, it's pulling you down. You can't go anywhere like that. You take 2 steps, you feel like you take 2 steps forward, and then you take 2 steps back. You just can't go anywhere without cleaning up the sludge. The only thing that kept me going forward in my first year of art school, because I was so up to my eyeballs in sludge, almost drowning in it, the only reason why I kept going was because I was already $25,000 in debt. And so I didn't want to waste the money. And I also did not want to, I didn't want to look like a failure in front of my family. I didn't want to quit. That was the only thing that kept me going. But at the time, all this sludge was so heavy and so self-sabotaging, that I realized I can't keep doing this. I'm not going to make it as an artist. I'm going to be $100,000 in debt by the time I get out of this 4 years of art school. And I can go through this with all this freaking sludge, but it's going to be torture. It's going to be miserable. And I'm really not going to, live the life of my dreams if I don't deal with this. So that was the first year. It was just constant inner criticism, constant toxic criticism from myself. And then of course, it's bad when you're blurting it out to other people, right? Because my boyfriend at the time, I would be like, oh, this painting's a piece of shit, And he was like, could you please stop referring to your work as, feces, as fecal matter? So he would call me on it because I would let it out, around my partner, around my boyfriend, or around people that I felt safe around. And, if you're saying it out loud to people like that, it's just running rampant in your mind, like crazy, So definitely the key is you've got to first find out what all those negative things are. And usually there's a core belief under all that stuff. If you really dig down deep, there's a core belief that's underneath. That's kind of like Pam mentioned, big fears and little fears, but usually all those fears are interconnected. Little fears and big fears, they're all interconnected. And usually if you dig deep, and ask what it is, it's usually one kind of core fear. And, for me, mine was always, I'm not good enough. See, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'll never be good enough. And when I really looked at everything I was experiencing, that was really the core underlying limiting belief that I had from childhood, that I just wasn't good enough. And so obviously, I worked with therapists. I worked, even with hypnotherapists and things like that to help me, but not that you have to go to that extent. But a lot of times there are just, traumas that are, from childhood that we pick up some kind of core belief. Some of the big ones I can think of right now is like, I don't matter. I'm not good enough. I'm incapable. That's a big one for a lot. Other people are so much more capable than me. These are kind of just some examples of core beliefs that hold us back. So first awareness, and then reframing, establishing that vision for where you want to be. And really where, like I said, where you want to be is actually that's your highest self. It's actually who you truly, really are. It's just all this stuff over here, which is all ego-based, that's just holding you back, that you've got to work through and clean up. Mm-hmm. So instead of fighting against all this stuff over here, I found that questioning it, is that really true? Is that statement? That's why when we do the truth turnarounds, we can't do it in our head. We've got to really feel it in our heart, first. Is that really true? Can I absolutely know that that's true, that statement is true? And then I tend to look for, and if you haven't done the self-mastery course, I would recommend that, because I actually kind of give the thought model in there, which is really helpful. If you're really stuck in something deep, it can really help to get you out of it. I still do that thought model from time to time. Now I'm so attuned to any little negative thought or negative feeling. Usually it's a feeling first, because everything is feeling based. Everything is emotion based. Even for men, who a lot of men think that they're not super emotional or not super in touch with their emotions, but every human being is really running by their emotions. So your thoughts create your emotions create your actions create your results. That's why I say, your thoughts are literally creating your reality. So it all starts with whatever that little thought is. And if you notice any of those negative thoughts, it's just draining your energy, right? You ever notice, like, whenever you think good thoughts, when you're feeling something good, like you're feeling joy, you're feeling gratitude. Maybe you take like somebody said, walking barefoot in the grass, when they were a kid. Part of all that too is like getting you back in touch with like that place of oneness, that place of wholeness, and that place of connectedness, which is really where creativity thrives from, And so when you're feeling those good feelings and you're thinking those good thoughts, your energy is just like super high, you're full of energy, you're full of life, right? Like maybe it's a bouquet of flowers, maybe, some of you shared so many beautiful examples in the group, like I loved drawing horses, and the reason why it's important to go back to childhood is because it's kind of before we get so stuck in that sludge permanently, or it feels like it's permanent, we had such a connection to life, such a connection to ourselves, such an appreciation of everything, of beauty, of life, of, oneness, really connectedness, oneness. And from that place, that's really the place from which we want to be creating and living every day. It's really the most important gift we can give ourselves, for sure. you will create so much better from that place, because your energy is just so good, versus if you're at a painting and you're just like beating the shit out of yourself mentally, you know, well, gosh, now your energy is drained, and the results that you're going to get from that are no bueno. No bueno. So no amount of like fighting. Oh, I'm going to force myself, oh, like a Marine, that's kind of how I was raised too. My mom would just be like, just go, just do it, but never deal with like the real problem, the real issue. So that way doesn't really work either. That's force. It's not true power. True power is like, hey, I'm in love with being an artist. I'm connected. I'm excited. Let's see what can happen. I'm open. I'm willing to be open and curious. I'm willing to see what happens in this painting. I'm accepting the nature of where I'm at in my development, and I'm appreciating it. That's true power. The other way of force just doesn't work. And it's very stressful and it's very exhausting. And I'm sure, does anybody resonate with that? Anybody been there? I'm like, I know I've been there. It's like, so in the mind and the heart really responds to reward more than punishment. So we don't need to punish ourselves. We don't need to force ourselves. In fact, the more that we can reward ourselves for how we're showing up, for putting in the effort, right? Celebrating the shit out of ourselves, every time we do something that's difficult, we will actually be more inspired to continue, because it's going to be hard no matter what. It's difficult to build the skill. It can be difficult to build the confidence. It's scary to put ourselves out there and put our work out there and risk rejection and risk failure or risk criticism, because while our culture and community is safe in the Art Life School, when we put it out to the outside world, we're not safe there against criticism, in terms of, people can criticize. If you're posting on social media, people can criticize. Now, you're always safe regardless, but you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be hard work no matter what, but it doesn't have to be exhausting. It doesn't have to be like so like draining. We're the ones with emotional baggage that really put harder on ourselves, right?